Board games, board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not
I
gonna
don't
shout.
want to shout.
I am starting off the streaming with a little bit of singing, and we're gonna be once again talking about the thing you know as marketing, with once again a familiar face who's over there in that rectangular space that you might see in the other rectangular space that is in a third rectangular space that's in a fourth rectangular space, by which I mean, first you've got the little screen with Dina in it, and then you've got the screen with like that's the streaming, and then you've got the web window, and then you've got like that's possibly in a bigger window, and then you've got that in your screen or monitor. Anyway, board games is what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout, hey! And over there, I just realized I never even mentioned your name. I'm sorry, I completely forgot that bit. But Dina, it is lovely to see you. And I am Bez. This is the board game Bledder. We are talking today about timing in marketing with Dina. And yep, it's ostensibly the Bezzy Bath Time board game Bledder. You don't need to be taking a bath, but you are welcome to if you so choose. You can take a bath whenever you want. You have that power. You have my permission. If you shouldn't need my permission, but if you ever felt like you needed it, you have it. Anyway, so to go back to the point, we are talking about timing in marketing. So I proposed this topic. Dina's come along a few times. Dina, the former, you might want to like look at your bio. I just realized because you've had some new jobs since then, and so what I've got here, which is just the first one, is that Dina likes to disappear into the world of proofreading and rulebook editing. She did costume design and acting for the promo video for the board game Kalewala, Tale of Sampo.
Tale of Sampo.
As well as co-designing, and then I just put a full stop there because I couldn't get any more words into the banner. But you co-designed the solo mode, and also you previously worked for Sana Interactive, and I did actually download their app based on curiosity and having you over here. So
yeah.
But then you've got a new job since then. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have. Jumped ship, as they say. I'm now working with Green Meadow Games for their upcoming Kickstarter release, Dawn, the card game, which is like a loose-based sequel to their previous game, Darkness. So in this game now, they're kind of going through history and how societies are evolving. So I think it's really cool that I get, as a community specialist, get to join into this because it's literally about how communities are developing through history set in a Nordic European setting. So it was like, I want to join on this. Can I join? And then we had a long chat with Taylor Hayward, which is the guy who runs the game and also wrote the game. And it took a couple of months and I was talking back and forth. And then it was like, okay, Dina, so now I feel ready. You can join us. And I'm like, yes. So it happened.
Well, congratulations, and let's talk a wee bit more about that maybe in the questionably quick questions. And hello, Alex, it is lovely to see you. Did I actually say hello to Xate? I don't remember if I did, but hello, Xate, if I haven't already said
anyone.
Hello. And I've got a new robot. Hello, the new robot. And so basically, I was going to get Chris to put up the Streamlabs thing because I know that with Streamlabs you do get kind of points. Oh man, Xate's already left. Yeah, Xate's just too upset that we didn't say hello.
See, timing. It's all about the timing, right? We already.
It's all about the timing. I like what you did there.
Terribly sorry, Xate.
But You know what? Let's get into recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So I want to talk
Woo!
about the fact that I set up this robot, and apparently I don't know if this will work. We'll give it a couple of weeks to see how it does. But the idea is that there will essentially be channel points without me having to go affiliate, and the channel points, eventually you'll be able to redeem them, on the sillier days like Fridays or over Christmas. It'll be things like, okay, get Bez to sing a song about you or do some sort of improv or stuff like that. And then maybe once, like in 2021, maybe twice in the year, I'll be like, okay, you can redeem these channel points for actual physical things. So I'll have to work out a way that doesn't cost me, too much, but it'll be like, okay, you get there will be some physical things that you can literally only get with the channel points. So I don't know how we'll do that. It might be some sort of pre-drawn art. I won't promise to draw art for people in future because we've decided that just builds up anxiety and I'm not very good at it. Sorry, Xate. But I am going to do it. I'm going to fulfill that. I'm just sorry about how long it's taking. Anyway, but so I'm going to kind of draw stuff and be like, okay, this is stuff that I drew for other people. If you want it sent out to you, can get it. You just need to be watching for a bit. And yeah, it might also be games and stuff if people don't already have my games. And so, yes, hello, Alan in chat. And hopefully the robot will today I set up a test to see if it will spawn messages every 5 minutes and every 11 minutes. We'll see how that goes. So please, I apologize in advance if Streamlabs is a bit too frequent during this particular stream. Oh, wait. Oh man, you are so mean sometimes, Xate.
I mean, I remember hearing about this drawing back in, was it like June? At least, and it was like a big thing. So yeah, before we even recorded history.
Wait, Bez makes games? Anyway, so that is some of my recent highlights. What have been some of your recent highlights? And people in the chat, what have you been enjoying recently?
Okay, are you guys ready? So I tweeted.
I'm going to make you big.
Okay, what make me big? Okay, so I tweeted about this. I went thrift shopping. I love thrift shopping, but I rarely find anything like properly worth. Like obviously, I recently bought a lot of chandeliers because I love those. But I found a board game, and not just like any, but so for a record, I live in Finland, and this is a German board game about trucks. My kid is absolutely loving it. And here's the cool.
Is that not the Spiel des Jahres? Yep.
Yes, 1987. Right. So, and I checked, and this is like the first edition as well. And check it out.
Wouldn't it have been like the second edition technically, because the first edition would have been printed before it won the award?
So it has even an alternative name for one of the cities. So, which I think is
which one?
Köln doesn't exist in this game.
What is it?
It says Max Goal.
Huh. Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. But it's all still in wrapping, so I thought that was really awesome. So we've been playing the game and I haven't we've had it for almost a week now. We're playing a lot, so we haven't done anything with the Deutsche Marks. We haven't opened those yet.
Xate says in Germany, that's still really worth quite a bit of money.
I checked on Amazon. Apparently someone is selling it there for 40 euros. So some money. There's currently 3 available on the market. One on eBay, one on Amazon, and a third one on the BBBB website.
Okay.
The other game that I found was Alhambra. So me and my kid has been playing this quite a lot this week, and it's really great because he's starting to he's 3.5, almost 4, so he's starting to do counting and adding up to tens. And this game has been a lot of fun for that. So he gets to see equal values with the colors and color matching. So yeah, we've had a lot of fun with this game. it has tile placement, so it was gonna be a winner since he loves Carcassonne and I do too. So I think we have tile
I mean,
placement
it's a
lovers.
lot more constrained than Carcassonne, which I think that Carcassonne is almost. It doesn't really get better than that for making a big sprawling map.
Mm,
But Alhambra, I agree with Alex. It is lovely.
it's lovely, yeah. Been really loving it, and I was asking on a couple of groups, like the board game revolution group on Facebook, for a recommendation to what to get my kid for Yule. And yes, he's well 3 years and 8 months, and he plays Carcassonne with the lake and the river expansion together, and all the rules.
And Xate says when Xate was free, she was playing This Goes in My Mouth.
We did that when he was like a year old. So yeah, I am recording the history of our going through different board games with my child on my Instagram, Game of Valkyrie. If people are curious as to what we're playing,
Nice.
and yeah, I was told
Uh,
by Nalin here that I should talk more about what my kid does for playing
it's
games.
very, very impressive for a 3-year-old. I mean, honestly, I don't think it depends so much on like the influence and the environment. I mean,
Mm,
my nieces when they were 8 years old, like yeah, would not would yeah, I it depends so much on the things, but
yeah.
so I played a couple of games yesterday. I played Bidel with 3 other people. So
Mm,
and so this is you can see a wee bit of who was playing here. Just paste this Bidel, of course, being a game where it's one of the contest entries, and you try and get your um, biggest and second biggest suits to be as populous as possible, and you're trying to, you know, what's the what's the opposite of diversify? Unify? Yeah, unify. Anyway, you're trying to not diversify. You know what I mean. And then we also played a bit of My Little Scythe, which continues to be a lot of fun. And
mm.
every time I have played it with Chris, Chris has always won. But I did manage to beat Layla when we played without Chris. So um but yeah, it feels like more people, there's going to be a bit more politics of who you become friendly with, who you give resources to. But Chris did do really well with everything at the end of the game, and just storming to 4 trophies, and I still only had one at that point, and I was like, yep, I've done abysmally this game. So yep, there you go. I am not always good at games.
I mean, I
So,
get beaten in Carcassonne by my kids, so I can relate.
yes, if anyone else has any brilliant things that they would like to talk about, then please share. And whether it's, I don't know, have you been able to make any bicycle trips recently, or have you been able to get out of the house? Have you been able to taste any nice things? Let us know. And let us know what also the comments are. Yeah, I mean, if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, then it will be there. And if you're watching after the fact, then just let me know in the comments. If you're watching right now, as I'm speaking, not literally as I'm speaking, because there is a tiny bit of lag. So it's like maybe like 1 or 2 seconds, or even 3, or some people say as much as 30 seconds, depending on your internet connection. But if you're watching right now live, then let us know. And people say, oh, Alan appreciates the robots, and thank you for all you and the other robots have done for us. And when the machines take over, remember who your friends were. So there you go. The robot is already there, making friends.
Aw, that's so sweet.
And so now we talk about brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's the little thing which is brilliant?
Brilliant.
And we're talking about notebooks. And so, yes, notebooks, because with this notebook, I'm going to try and stop writing on loose leaf paper, unless, I've printed on one side, because I might want to use the other side just to, use up less paper. But, it keeps it together, it keeps it a little bit more organized. And then it means that later on, I'll be able to refer back to, oh, yeah, that was that person that I had on, if I can still remember my notes, and make little notes on the side, as opposed to a computer screen. I can quickly flip it to the side and write things in different orientation, and that's like a little shorthand. So like the things going that way are things I have to refer to straight away. And there's something lovely about writing it on a notebook, not on a pen, not on a computer in the notebook. So yeah. Why do you think notebooks are brilliant, Dina?
Well, I work on a lot of projects, and with my ADHD, it can be mentally exhausting to have so many things sort of flying around my head. Oh, I remember this thing for this project or this thing for that project. And I'm literally like sitting trying to have breakfast. So for me, I have like 20 notebooks all over the house, and there's like one notebook for each product. So whenever something happens and I remember something, I'll put them in so that next time when I have like a meeting with someone, I'll be like, oh, I thought about this thing like 4 weeks ago. I should probably implement that or whatever it is. So yeah, I have one notebook for each project all over the place. And I used to write on like scribble pieces of paper, and like when I was doing sewing, I was doing notes on the patterns, and then a pattern would disappear, like maybe my kid would get into it, and I would lose all my notes, and then I'd kind of have to start over again. So
It keeps it together. It helps keep you
yeah,
organized. And honestly, I
really
was
does.
inspired by Anna Maria Jackson Phelps. So shout out to Anna Maria Jackson Phelps, who kind of mentioned to Carla from Weird Giraffe Games how, it's a good thing to keep organized. And a quick hello to Bones and Banners from Stockholm. Lovely to see you, and thank you
Hello.
for joining us. And we have, some point in the yeah, we've got some squabbles between the humans and robots in chat on Twitch. I don't want to get involved. So let's. I mean, I think that humans and robots can coexist.
Yeah.
Let's move to questionably quick questions. So, where exactly are you and what time is it?
I am in my bedroom underneath a chandelier in Hämeenlinna in South Finland. It is 12:18 at the moment, and I have mist with my highlighter, so I have a weird spot on my cheek.
So, which do you value more, humans or robots?
I will have to say humans, because they're soft and squishy, and robots aren't really that. Though obviously robots can be fun too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is all about the humans, and I feel like I'm just being distracted by my past self now. I mean, it's kind of a really weird feeling. I want, if someone can actually type into the chat !points, then we will find out if the points are actually working. Sate is trying to pretend to be a robot. So Dina, lets us know. Apparently, people have 0 points. I thought you would get points, and yeah, I thought people would just automatically get points out of. Oh, congratulations, Sates. I don't know why you're number 1 and Alan's apparently number 3. Oh, well, I don't know what's going on. Let's see if you get some points by the end of this chat. Otherwise, I need to presumably change some settings. But thank you very much for checking that out. Anyway, what do points mean, Dina?
To me?
Yes.
Achievements. Working towards a very tangible goal.
What's your favorite Xbox Live achievements, if you have one?
Xbox Live? Which one is that?
Do you play many video games?
I don't really do controllers, no. I think the only controller games that I've been playing is like Crash Bandicoot and Castle Crashers
Hmm.
and Monster Prom. Monster Prom was fantastic. So worth cracking out a controller for that. I loved it. I would date that robot any day.
Wow. What was the last video game you played?
Video game. Ooh.
And a quick
Not
hello to
counting.
CD. It is lovely to see you in the chat.
Hello. So not counting TTS and Board Game Geek Arena, obviously, even though they are virtual. I think the last game I actually played has to be Age of Empires
Hmm.
2 second, because it's the best.
I think is that like from the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was from when I actually got my computer.
I think I played that one and I was like, wow, this does a better job of kind of immersing me in the real-time aspect of history, of kind of seeing how civilizations kind of spawn up and grow. And
Right?
it's because civilization for me, because it's turn-based, it kind of starts to feel mathematical, but at least back then, because Age of Empires, it's okay, it's kind of yeah.
And you get drawn in, and the music is brilliant, and it's like I will zone out for maybe like 8 hours, and I won't notice time passing. And it's fantastic how a house can be burning for literally hundreds of years and just never die out. The intensity of those fires, you know, fantastic. I absolutely love that game.
Alan, I don't think you're going to get points just by. I think points is just to check your points. I don't know what you do to actually get points. I think just for those who've just tuned in, I've now got a robot in the chat who, in theory, is meant to be giving people like points every, I don't know how long. Maybe it's every half hour you get a point. I honestly don't know. I might be able to. There is a command. I think I need to work it out where I can manually give people points. Like at a certain point, I could say, okay, everyone gets a point at the start of the chat and at the end, but I just need to wait a few days to see if people automatically get points or not, because I need to work out the economy of the, game to see kind of what, because should I be giving 1 point? Should I be giving 100 points? I don't know. Should I be giving 1,000,000 points? Yeah. But apparently, according to Xate, it is after 20 minutes. And but we will find out by the end of today. This is all science. We are all testing this together. And so anyway, why did you choose to join Green Meadow Games? What's brilliant about them?
Taylor is kind of visionary, but he's also the kind of person who trusts others to do what they're supposed to do. There's he knows what he's not good at, and he actively looks for people who can do said thing, and will just go, okay, you just sort that. I don't know what it entails because I don't have time to look it up. You just do your thing, and yeah, I think that's really cool when a person can be kind of humble about their own experience, that they don't know anything about marketing, and just being able to find the people that you need in order to make things happen. So yeah, it's managed to gather quite a nice team that I've been able to get to know.
And so is that your full-time gig at this minute?
I'm doing it part-time, so it's a couple of hours here and there where I can squeeze it because I still have the kid at home during daytime, and I get quite exhausted to have a 3.5-year-old at home, even though there is a lot of board game playing. It is tiring. So I'm not doing it full-time yet, but I probably will gear up towards full-time as the Kickstarter is launched.
Nice. And I hope that you, I hear that you've got some new childcare, and hopefully that will be able to help when you have to go to full time.
Yeah, so I'm getting him into kindergarten actually, so that will be his first time into
Hello,
a
Yoda.
kindergarten in the new year. So for now, I have what is called here in Finland a mother's helper who comes in and can look after the kid for a couple of hours, so I can join the stream like this.
Oh, and I wanted to ask, what was your first ever job? Do you remember?
My first ever job, yeah, I used to work as a customer service representative and sales for a mobile network operator in Norway called Tally 2.
Sally too?
Yeah, Tally Event 2.
Ah, interesting name. I,
Yeah.
and when did you decide that marketing was a thing that you wanted to do? Do you feel like marketing and like this is kind of the thing that you are like excited to do and want to kind of carry on working in for your lifetime?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, with me having attention deficit disorder, I tend to find things that I get really passionate about, and I try to learn everything that I can within said field. And from right now, it is board game and marketing board gaming that has been like my thing for the last couple of years. But also, I used to work for Sana Interactive that we were talking about earlier, where I was just doing marketing and social media management and community building for a book publisher on the virtual space. So yeah, it's definitely segueing and kind of spreading itself out over multiple areas, which means that it's probably something I'm going to stick around with because it seems I'm doing a pretty decent job at it. Even though I do suffer from imposter syndrome at some point, I did have someone a couple of weeks ago calling me a marketing guru. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not that bad.
No, I think that's at this point, you've developed for sure some skills and some things that you can be proud of, and there should be some things. And night night, CD. I hope you have a good one,
Good
and
night.
I hope you sleep well. All the people who are going to bed, and do you? Speaking of being proud of things, what would you say is your proudest moment? Firstly, as a marketer, and secondly, as a human, just generally.
Mm. Okay, as a marketer, what is my proudest moment? That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm
I
busting
mean,
out. We don't hold
oh,
back here. You know how it is.
yeah. Okay, so I think maybe this has to be it. The feeling when Paul Grogan on Gaming Rules was playing the Tale of Kalewala, the Tale of Sampo, Kalewala, live with what's his name? I can't even remember. Some other really big time, top tier influencer in the board gaming sphere. Yeah, and being there as a marketer and being able to witness that and being like, okay, I actually helped make this happen. Because I was saying that maybe we should, this sounds like something that maybe Paul Grogan can do.
Nice. And so, yeah, get things that's in front of
Yeah.
some extra people and
And me being
getting.
such a big fan of him as well, like
Hmm.
yeah, I fangirl a big time over gaming rules. So
Oh, Paul is lovely.
he is wonderful. I mean, yeah, he's such a brilliant guy.
Yeah, Paul is brilliant. And what would be your proudest moment as a human, would you say?
Ooh, ooh. I think, like, I was talking to a friend of mine about, like, obviously, your life has different phases.
Hmm.
And it can be very difficult to compare the different phases of your life to each other. So you might have your proudest moment as a parent and a proudest moment for yourself as in your own individual prior to becoming a parent on your other time of yeah. So comparing those two moments against each other can be really hard, I think, because they're so different from each other. So I mean, one of my proudest moments as a parent was when my kid was like 4, 5 weeks old and he was doing a barrel roll next to a 6 months old baby who was being taught it by a specialist because she still hadn't rolled. And he was trying to get her attention so he could show her how to roll. And them hanging out with each other for a week, she was able to roll because he was trying to teach her. And I, like, as a parent, you know, it's impossible not to like, well up and be super proud of that. I mean, he was so little. And yet it was like he was reaching out and trying to show like, I am doing rolls, and he was making all these weird noises to get attention. Yeah, that was really cool. As a non-parent, like before I became a parent, I think maybe one of my proudest moments is leaving Norway. That was a huge achievement for me. It was really difficult. Like, I get nervous just by taking a different bus that I've never done before because I'm not sure the route. And I was living in Oslo and I was doing, you know, all the right things and being kind of stick up my ass kind of person, and being really worried that I wasn't good enough all the time. And I was trying to be like, you know, what I thought the person I was with at the time wanted me to be. And I didn't know what else to be. And me leaving Norway meant that I had to be me for me and not for anyone else. And just trying to discover who I am, not for what others want from me or what I can give, but for myself as a human, like gaining some integrity. And yeah, I think that is like, it's personal, one of my proudest moments, even if it was really shitty at the moment.
No, I mean, these kinds of things, when you look back and then it reframes things, I think that's a lovely thing. And thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that I'm just amused by all the comments. And Streamlab says truth. And did you read a bit where it was talking about you, Dina?
No, I didn't see that.
It was. Yeah, but now Alan's rank keeps dropping, and now Alan's turning against the robot, because apparently Alan's still got 0 points, and his rank now 5 out of 5.
Oh no!
Oh, poor Alan.
Oh, poor
but
thing.
We will.
We'll
find out at the end of the stream. We'll find out how it goes. But let's get a little bit more on topic, because it's always a good chat, and people seem to be too distracted with the robots or too entertained with your usual chat or too looking forward to your insights to give you questionably quick questions. So I'm going to say to everyone, we're going to move to the main topic. Comment, ask questions, thumb like, follow, all that good stuff. Shout out to my own Discord if you're not already there. January the 9th, there will be an event. And we are, of course, moving into timing in marketing. And so, yes, timing in marketing. This is all about when should you do things? Once you've decided to do something, when do you do it?
Yeah. So as I mentioned a lot of times earlier, is that you need to have a plan when you approach marketing. Without a marketing plan or even a business plan or, you know, like brand management plan, they all go down to like, you need to plan step by step. And that's why kind of we recommend get yourself a notebook for your particular project, because it will help you, or even, you know, like some organizing system that works, because things need to happen in certain orders for it to work. If you start posting on Instagram without having done the research hashtags, for example, people are not going to see your stuff. So, you know, you research, then you execute said plan. And kind of things have to happen in a certain order when you're doing things. There are some things in marketing, like when do you get people to reviews, that can differ quite a large amount, but as long as it's before your Kickstarter is launching, like don't have someone doing a review in week 2 and 3 of your Kickstarter if that is your first review, for example. Like that's kind of too late, in
Yeah,
my
it kind
opinion.
of is. Although, you can succeed despite bad
You can,
practices. I
yeah.
mean, but I would say that, the fact that the original Yogi in a bind back when I did the Kickstarter on 1st of August 2014, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
14. Anyway, so when I launched in a bind, I didn't have any reviews, and then it wasn't until I found, Forest Boward are actually willing to take a thing, and then it was a 58-day campaign, and it was in week 6 that I got my first review. And so, yeah, that wasn't great, but I kind of, back then, I was so naive, I kind of thought, people see this video and they'll just trust me, because, this video shows how amazing this game is. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see
Yeah.
how brilliant this game is from the video. And, people have bought it based on a live video, by which I mean people have seen it at a convention, and that's basically
Mm.
just like a video that you see with your own eyes, except I guess that it's really happening, that it's not doctored or anything, that it's kind of strangers, and it's presumably that person didn't hire actors to just hang around at the front of their booth all day. So if you know that it's strangers and are laughing, then maybe you're more likely to get the point thing. But anyway, the point is that I was so naive, I thought, okay, this is fine, and then but we don't need to cover that whole thing as a case study, because as a case study, it was 6 years ago and things have moved on so much. And I am still
Yeah.
going to say that even if it was today, I think I possibly would still fund, because so much of it was just thanks to my friends being like, you know what? This is Bez's first game, and Bez really likes games, and you know what? We should support Bez. And so it was basically just people that I knew from pole dancing or salsa dancing, or from language tea cafe, or all sorts, from just general enjoying life.
Yeah.
And but now maybe
You brought your own audience,
I kind
like you
of
can get
did,
away
but
with a lot.
it was actually on the last weekend. It was on day 57 of a 58-day campaign that I started actually reaching out to everyone. And this was probably bad timing in retrospect. So just to show how probably not to do things. So my plan was that I was going to launch the Kickstarter, and then after launching the Kickstarter, I was going to make the Kickstarter page look good, which I did. But after launching it, and then after maybe the middle of the Kickstarter, in the middle of the Kickstarter, I'd start putting up videos, and I did actually have maybe a whole month, like the second month, where I launched a video literally every day on Board Game Geek. But I probably should have done that leading up to it. That might have been better. But then on day 57, I kind of started then messaging all my friends one by one, literally hundreds of friends. I was like, okay, am I going to give up? And then a friend said, no, actually message your friends, because I had posted about it just generically on Facebook to say, hey, this is launching. Anyway, I'm loving how much I'm making Dina laugh about this terrible tale. But so the penultimate day, on the Saturday, when it was destined to finish on the Sunday at 11 p.m. UK time, which I thought that seems like a reasonable thing, because it's the end of the week. It makes sense. And, it doesn't really in retrospect, but maybe it did, because I reached out to everyone, and then people were like, oh, wow, yes, let me try and help you. And maybe it helped in retrospect. I don't know. Maybe people saw, oh, whoa, this has been going on nearly 2 months, and maybe they felt like I was a bit more desperate. Maybe they wouldn't have backed me on day one. I don't know. But because that's an interesting thing to ponder, and we will never look, in reality, we can never do A/B testing without time travel. It's just impossible. But we can do sorts of A/B testing, but it's never going to be perfect. Anyway, so what the point is, everyone kind of banded together, and then one of my friends, Maggie Rostron, who has like 3,000 Facebook friends back when I had like, a few hundred, and Maggie showed it to everyone and said, hey, come on, back this, it's worth it, even for all these videos that Bez is doing and this music video that Bez has done for this game. And so many people, it was, I think, 70% of it was either people that I knew or people that knew people that I knew. So it was either one or two steps removed from me, if you know what I mean, at most, which is both a good and a bad thing. And so, yeah, that's probably a case study in really bad timing. Do you want to bother unpicking what I should have done better, or?
Obviously, nowadays we have a lot of, it's quite concise, like what should happen at what time. There are literally someone who's made a roadmap to your marketing of your board game, where each step is explained and like when you should start doing what. And it's brilliant. Like it gives you a really good idea of what should happen at what point. Obviously, for me, like, concept of game should come first. Seems to me like that is the obvious way to start. But you don't necessarily need to have your game finished before you start thinking about what do I do with it. Preferably, you wouldn't even be halfway done with your game, as in you wouldn't probably even have artwork done and nailed down of your game before you do any of the other things. So, you would go and think about branding. You would decide colors and schemes for your game and also for your venture. You would decide on what sort of platform are you looking for in terms of release. Are you looking for a publisher or is it self-publish? And if you're doing self-publish, are you doing it alone or with someone? Because some publisher will join you as a self-publishing part just to give you that little extra bit of boost, but it's still on a self-publishing platforms like Kickstarter. You will see publisher who do this. And in that case, then you would have to reach out to these publishers to see if they want to join you. And that means, community building and networking and reaching out and chatting to people. Maybe even, back in the days, we would maybe even visit them. Not anymore, but because obviously times are changing. So we do things differently now. But still, you need to do these things before you have your Kickstarter up and running. You can't go, oh, look at the game I have on Kickstarter at the moment. Do you want to acquire it? That doesn't quite work. I've seen someone do that. It was really weird. I was like, okay, so you're aiming at a Kickstarter launch, but you also want a publisher. What is the deal here?
I mean, that kind of thing has happened. I mean,
oh yeah.
I should start not having the, I don't know what language this is. 999games.nl, is that Netherlands?
Netherlands, yeah.
Yep. It's the only one that actually comes in a box. Anyway, the point is, yes, that can happen. It also depends on the potential reach of the thing. I think that if you've done more than, if the publisher's like, okay, we've got the potential to sell 100,000 copies and you've sold a couple of thousand, then yeah, fair enough. And people do partner up all the time. I know that even Surprise Terror Games, Alan Paul could talk about this, but that's beforehand where you partner up with Frosted Games. If you're doing it afterwards, I think that there's got to be something really, really special about that Kickstarter. And I know that it's tempting to believe that you are the exception, and we are all exceptions in some way, for sure. But we have to also be honest. Are we? Is this game in the top 1% of games for some attributes? And it sounds kind of arrogant when I'm basically saying, yeah, Yogi is in the top 1%. I would almost of games, but there's a lot of stuff on Kickstarter, and you just need to be aware realistically that you need to kind of have an idea of what's going to do. I guess what we're saying is that you need to have focus, you need to have priorities, right?
Yes, and stick to those. Don't go all wishy-washy because you had an idea and go off on a tangent and then just derail yourself and your entire campaign because of said tangent. Write it down, stick to it. If it doesn't meet the plan that you made, look if you have to change the plan and then do that, or if you need to scrap the idea. So I always say, make a vision. If it doesn't support the vision, scrap it. It has to be something really dramatic in order for you to actually change your vision. Like, obviously, if you were approached by a publisher and they're saying, hello, okay, how about you don't do a Kickstarter, but we will release it, or that they are joining in on the Kickstarter, but that might change some of it, but the goal should probably be still the same. You want to get it out there to people to play it. But they might change some of the planning for that goal.
So, sorry, I am distracting myself with this robot.
With the bot. Should I just take over?
I should have really done this. I should have really done this tomorrow on the Friday. I massively apologize.
Timing
yes, this
again.
was bad timing. So, let's answer these questions. Okay, what should we be doing when we are starting our company? Let's start with that.
Okay, so you started your company, then you all sit down, all the people who are involved in said company, and you make the pillars of the company. We have a whole chat that we did earlier where we talk about brand management, and that's what you want to start at. Think about what is the vision of your brand or your company, and make the supporting pillars of that. Like, where are you headed? What would you want to do with the company? What are you aiming at giving people, and what are you wanting to get back? And write those down, and also have them visible. Have them visible on the website when you're setting it up, because those are going to be people who are going to look into what you're doing, and they might your goals might resonate with them. And it's also great for people who, when you're looking to acquire other people who are going to work with you, it's going to be good for them to also know what sort of company are you.
Yeah, so you know yourself, so you know how to be the best version of yourself, kind of thing.
Exactly. And also, if I was looking to get a publishing deal, I would look at the different publishers that are out there. And for me personally, it's really important that they are saying something about sustainability, for example. And then if their supporting pillars aren't visible on their website, I might scrap the idea of reaching out to someone unless that is mentioned. I don't want to have to ask them specifically, do you have a plan for sustainability, unless in order, because obviously you have a list and you're narrowing it down and finding reasons to disqualify someone for reaching out to them, not to reach out to everyone and then disqualify them after you've had a chat with them and built up relations, because that's not the dumb thing. It's going to waste your time. Nobody want to waste your time. I mean, yeah.
If you haven't done that early on, is it still worth doing later on? These kinds of things. I understand maybe the timing isn't ideal, but is it then worth coming back to later?
Obviously, some of these things can be worth to come back to later, but for your supporting pillars, they should be there in the beginning. Because if your company doesn't have a vision, what are you even starting the company for? Okay, maybe you are starting them for tax reasons, and I can understand that. I worked in real estate and I've helped people buy flats in order to hide millions. But really, that's just, you don't really do that as a primary focus.
It feels like you need to I mean, this is the point of knowing what things are worth doing now and they will have a massive benefits on you, knowing what things you can wait, and okay, if you wait a bit, it's not okay. And I mean, as humans, we don't have like a constant workload. You know, our energy
Yeah,
levels do fluctuate, but also we can occasionally push ourselves a little bit harder, but then might need a bit of time to rest. And it's
yeah.
like, okay, when is it worth actually pushing ourselves a little bit harder? And when you talk about starting up the company, and like again, how can we tell where we are? Because every company is different. Because we grow up from these little things. Which which things are we like? Okay, we need to get it done right now. So not only when does it matter in our own timing and lifetime, but when does it matter regarding the timing of the world around us? Is it one of those things that we just need to relax and say, hey, um, it'll come when it comes?
Some things can obviously wait, but it is in terms of managing a company and also knowing what you're doing and not wanting to waste anyone's time, knowing what your pillars are and doing brand management, at least the basics of brand management. We are talking more about that in the chat that we did last time. So people can watch that if they're more curious about like how do you start. But say for example, like hashtag research, that could wait until your 90-day period for your Kickstarter. You don't absolutely have to sit down and do a proper, and find 300 or whatever, how many hashtags you're looking for. You don't really have to do that until the 90. It's really going to count and do good for you a lot in the 90 days. You would have to want to do that before. Obviously, it will help you tremendously if you also do it prior to this, but it can wait if you have to scrap something. But it's going to be pretty impossible to do the whole audience building and engagement unless you've done it, if you are using Instagram as one of your primary ways of getting any funnels into your email list or gaining audience.
With email lists and funnels, let's talk about that, because funnels, I kind of discovered this whole concept within the past few months. Can you give a very quick 1-minute overview for those who aren't aware of this term? And
Okay,
maybe to help me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so a funnel is basically a platform or a site where your aim is primarily to guide traffic through it. Just like you're pouring audience in top of a funnel, and then the ones who are guiding it should be the ones who are going to give you money back, something in return for all the efforts that you're putting into it. So trying to use Facebook, for example, with a link to your email sign up, that is a funnel if that is the primary reason for you to be there. In order for it to count as a funnel, it has to be the primary goal of your presence on the platform. For example, nobody would use Reddit as a primary funnel for getting emails or people into your Kickstarter, but it might be your primary funnel for getting feedback for marketing purposes or playtesting.
So it's kind of the notion of showing people a thing to kind of guide them towards another thing. But as I understand it, with funnels, you can add some sorts of little Facebook pixels or other little code where it actually tracks, okay, what have these people been up to? In which case, of course, you need to declare those cookies under GDPR and everything. But
setting up UTC links in Google Analytics in order to track how many people are clicking said links or how many are actually doing the signups is a very smart thing to do, and have those ready before like the 120 days where you are going to start for looking for the funnels and choosing platforms in which you will drop these links.
I'm going to ask everyone to maybe cool it down on the bot for the moment, because otherwise I am going to be distracted all day for at least half an hour, please. But Alex has an actual question in chat. How do you rate Twitch for marketing, Dina?
Okay, so I have been looking into what Twitch does and how they're doing it. Like, you need to use third parties in order to have subtitles live, for example, on Twitch. Twitch doesn't do it natively. So for me, in terms of marketing, I wouldn't really put a lot of effort into it as a funnel. I don't think it. I've seen people who are trying to use it as a funnel for Kickstarters, for publishing, but it doesn't seem to really drive us much. In terms of getting people who are reviewers and content creators as a part of your marketing outreach, I say it really works because it's easy a platform to engage with, and Twitch is incredibly community based, and the content lives on for quite some time. It's easy to go back to, even though primarily people are using Twitch Live. But it is based on the consistency of the content creator, you can use it really well. I mean, but for a company, I don't. Yeah, it's not going to be one of your mains.
It's a weird one because I know that some companies, like Hub Games, for example, is doing stuff regularly on Twitch, and I think multiple times a week. Oh dear, I missed the Wednesday thing. There was a Wednesday thing. But yeah, like Hub Games is doing these playthroughs of Prisma Arena over November, and having these interviews on Wednesday evenings, and having something to ideally make people look forward to it. And UK Games Expo, of course, in a very strange position for 2020, has had to have an online convention this year. And then since then, because they had these free Twitch accounts for having their free stages, if you know what I mean. So it's like, okay, this is the main stage. This is the and as opposed to Spiel, which was just, okay, everyone do it on your own stuff. UK Games Expo was more like, okay, you can do stuff on your own stuff, but we've got the main stage, and the main stage is for like the kind of people that we want to highlight. And me being there on Saturday, hey, suddenly I was talking to like 50, 60 people, and I do attribute that largely due to UK Games Expo. It was them rather than me, but also down to the title of the show. When it's something sexy like 10 tips to help you design, or board game design 101, or, you know, when it's like people like introductory things and you need to think about your audience. But now UK Games Expo is doing that weekly thing on Wednesdays themselves, and sometimes other days of the week, which they're trying to bring it up.
Established. Yeah, and that is good examples of people who are utilizing the community base that is already existing on Twitch in a marketing approach, but it's not as a funnel. It is as a part of their awareness campaign.
Yes, I see the distinction. So for general marketing, you think Twitch is fine, but as a funnel, as pushing people directly to something else, then no good. Yeah. But, you know, if Bez is here and hoping that, if I, to kind of connect with maybe 5 people in a deeper level, then that's kind of, okay, great. And so for sure, I think that if it weren't for this stream, I'm going to say that there probably would have been at least 7 fewer contributions to the LDEC design contest. And I think I'm just going to make an executive decision in the next couple of weeks to say this is the game that won it. Because and everyone else can re-enter. But yeah, it feels like, yes, people might have already been working together or whatever before the contest, or people might have already been designing games, but the fact that, oh, you know what, Bez has been talking about the LDEC for, but I've been watching these 20 episodes, and Bez talks about the L deck, once a week, and now, oh yeah, I should actually do something for that. Why not? And so I think I did, sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
it's brilliant for that kind of awareness, and also visiting other people who are content creators on the platform is great to further that reach for the awareness campaign. And obviously there are circular life in terms of marketing, like you do awareness and then you're making them aware of what you have to offer, as in you're providing a value to your audience wants to give back, and then you have like there's a nice circle here, and then you're always going to end up needing to go back to creating awareness to expand your audience.
yeah, I I, I'm sorry. I just want to apologize, Dina. I completely
It's okay.
underestimated how much
Power of
um
the internet.
I would be distracted by this. Um, I yeah, but I think that it speaks well to my ability to distract myself, but badly to my ability to focus. So please tell us, when should we start promoting a new project?
Okay, so you have a project, you know what you want to do with it, you have settled on a couple of platforms in which you are going to talk about them, and you're wondering, when do I start talking about it? Oh yeah, I always say that you should do it as early as possible. There's no such thing as too early, there's only too late. I've mentioned this on a couple of streams now already. And by too late, I mean anything after the 90-day period, that's the holy grail of marketing for Kickstarters. Anything after that, so if you are on your 60-day prior to a Kickstarter, it's going to be too late. If that is your primary way of trying to gain audience for your Kickstarter, it's probably not going to work. Those are the projects that we see that don't end up meeting their funding goals because they started too late. I've myself been a part of those people who are
So
trying
if you're
yeah.
starting, if you're launching at the end of March, then if you're saying that if you haven't started marketing by January the 1st, forget about it.
Yeah, then postpone that planned launch. It's not going to work. And also when we're talking about timing of when are you launching, we already know that December doesn't really count in terms of audience building. So you should always start a little bit before December with that, because a lot of people are distracted with Yule tides and everything, and the holidays that are rapidly coming up from October. So I always say, like, don't plan on launches in January, February, and March is doable. But if you do it in the later end of March, especially if you're planning on only getting onto the social medias in the 90-day period, I say if you're planning on having February, March launch, think more of 120 days, because people are distracted and they're going to lose out on the awareness campaign you're trying to run in the middle of the holiday seasons. And you're going to need to push a little bit extra in order to get the same results that you would, say, during January, February, and March, and so on, the other months. Also, January launches tend to be a bit clouded with the larger releases, because people have yearly expenses that comes up in January and are usually more cautious with spendings in January, February because of this. So think about that as well in terms of timing, to think about when do you want to launch, and be early enough, but not too early in terms of the driving for emails. Like, emails you want to do in the 90-day period, but gaining audience and traction in running awareness campaign for what you're doing and for your project, that can span over years. I've seen people who have talked about their board games for more than 3 years and consistently updated their audience on the development process of their game, and have several rounds of playtesting, who are doing really good in building their audience base and people who are really keen on getting said game once it's ready. And they haven't really lost any, or what they have lost has been really little in terms of percentage, from that audience during the run of that. So it's better to be, having those 3 years and slowly building an audience and then gearing up to the awareness that we're actually doing a launch here. Get your wallets ready for this. Then having those 90 days, I'm gonna launch a Kickstarter here, let's gear up, and then jumping on it. It's going to be a lot more work for you, and you're probably going to have to outsource some of the marketing because it's just too much for a small team to do. Obviously, if you are planning in terms of your budget that you can afford to get in some larger companies to run your marketing for you, they are professional, they know what they do, and they have more people to do it for you, and therefore their reach is built upon years and years of experience. They can do it, but that also costs a lot of money. So in terms of time efficiency for yourself and for your own sanity, if you're aiming at a Kickstarter launch, and you want to probably do some of these things yourself, because being in contact with your audience as a game designer, there is very little that is that cool. People who are oohing and eyeing and getting that first experience yourself, priceless. So you want to have at least one finger into the game and see what is happening for the community and audience building. Get there as early as possible, even if it's just scratches on pieces of paper. Like, personally, I love alpha testing. I think it's tremendously a lot of fun, and it can be, just image goes here with a bunch of text, and I will play it. And there is a whole audience of people like myself who love these dirty prototypes that are great for knowing like what sort of audience is going to be interested in your game and also helping you in terms of marketing.
That's really interesting. And I mean, I kind of feel like at this point, I want to be the almost contradictory voice, because you are talking about, of course, best possible practices, and this is what you should ideally do. But at the same time, I feel like it's, even if we, like, perfection is the enemy of the good, but even great can be the enemy of getting something that can be incredibly worthwhile. And even if your marketing is objectively bad, I mean, frankly, sorry, I don't want to overstate it too much, but it's interesting how I just started talking about In a Bind, now Yogi, that it had some really bad issues. But if I had not kickstarted that, I mean, if I had not been, okay, I'm going to launch this Kickstarter, even though there's massive issues with it, just to get myself out there so that there's some pressure on myself to make this thing. And I know that ideally you want to have all your art done before you start it up, and you want to have the game totally done, but the box cover. But when you go to Kickstarter, the fact that I had 0% artwork done, I think that helped me in that it meant that I went to Kickstarter. I was like, okay, this is just a thing. I'm going to focus on the game itself. And I feel like, in a sense, psychologically, it meant that, look, I could excuse it after the fact. Maybe this is some post-justification. That's, oh yeah, I got more people kind of contributing to it. But the key thing is, I think, ultimately, for myself, I needed that validation. I needed to know that there were a couple of hundred people, or 170 something people, basically saying, yes, Bez, we believe you knew enough in order to put some number of pounds into this project. And most of them, were getting our own copy. Lots of them even getting multiple copies because they actually enjoyed it that much. And me saying, okay, this is what it's going to be like. And these are and having that kind of, okay, this is a valid thing that I'm doing, and that's allowed me to maybe psychologically, I don't know. And maybe as humans, we shouldn't need to do that. But also, maybe there are some extenuating factors. Maybe you need to get a project done out, because if you don't get it out now, then maybe, your country's going to leave the European Union. and maybe postage will become a lot more expensive, or maybe you're kind of thinking, okay, I need to get this game out there before I make some other major life change. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah, and absolutely that was possible, like 6 years on Kickstarter to have no artwork, hardly any marketing, and grab your friends and go. Definitely. If you
but
were
it's also
doing
about
all
the
of those
funding
now,
goal.
yeah,
Like, I mean,
obviously.
bear in mind that 2,700, it is a fair whack of money. Like, I kind of get annoyed by people say, oh, if you're asking for a tiny amount of money like 2,000, I mean, 2,000, it's a substantial amount of
It's
money.
nothing. Anything less than 10K, I think, is like the bracket nowadays in marketing. Anything less than 10K, it's like, yeah, you can give it a run. Go for it. If you can fund your game for less than 10K, absolutely. As a first timer, I would even, I encourage you to have a goal under 10K because it is less daunting and it requires less work because it's less people that you need and less game copies that need to be sold. Absolutely. I
And
mean,
is under
yeah,
10K, is that kind of fairly arbitrary, or is
no,
it that?
that's, yeah.
No, but I mean, has there been research done into, okay, 9.9K, it's like, okay, got this massive difference compared to 10,200. I mean, it's
Not that
presumably.
close, but yeah, fairly close up to the 10K. I think the numbers I was looking at was like up to 8.5 is kind of where you start seeing a change. And the 10K is a lot of people will just set 10K as a goal because they're like, oh, but that's what people do on Kickstarter. So it became a thing a couple of years ago that was what your goal would be. But really, your goal should be the funding goals, not just
Hmm.
put a number to put a number. But a lot of people in like last few years has just been putting 10K because that's what everyone else does. So with people seeing those 10K as a funding goal, they know that they're just, it isn't their exact goal. So they usually would have stretch goals into it that they're going to launch up towards the actual funding goal that they are aiming at, but that is not the realistic funding goal.
So basically, whatever your funding goal is, the lower it is, the more likely you are to attain it. For
It is
example,
easy,
if
yeah.
I were to launch with a goal of 2K, it maybe I could get away with skipping some of these
Yeah.
things.
You might not need as extensive hashtag circulation system if your funding goals are less than a 10K.
And I mean, with your first project, if someone really wants to do it at the start, do you think that it would you advise people to do something not in the way that I marketed it, but in the way that it's like, okay, yeah, go for Tuckbox, go for something that you can do for like for 3 grand. You can, I think still print and fulfill a quality game.
Yeah,
And would you always recommend people to start small?
I would, realistic goal is really what I would want to drive through, is that look at what the manufacturer is requiring in terms of minimal printing and what you actually need to get the game sold for, and see, like, that should probably be your goal, like the minimum amount in order to make it happen for you to want to still do it. Obviously, if you're running on zero, not everyone wants to run that Kickstarter campaign if the end balance is going to be zero. But some
Hmm.
people, and look at how much do you need in order for it to be worth to run it. And that should be your Kickstarter, not like an arbitrary 10, 20K. I've seen people who had an actual goal of 3K on their Kickstarter, ending up funding for like 11K because 3K was what he needed in order to want to do the project. And he was doing a lot of these marketing and audience building things that are like considered best practices, but he wasn't doing all of them. And he managed to go, way beyond the goal and into the beyond 10K, even though he didn't think that was necessary for him to want to do the Kickstarter, but he was doing such a good job and his product was shining through so well that he went way beyond his goal. So those things are more likely to happen than if you're setting your goal higher and not telling like exactly what are people getting for their money. And this was something that didn't even have all the artwork done. There was still some tweaks that needed to be done in terms of the game designing process. Like there was, I think it was like a rule that they were still discussing and trying to iron out for playtesting, the balancing issues, which are minor when it comes to launching on Kickstarter. And I think that's absolutely doable to do. And then getting it funded and then starting during the campaign to show artwork being made. Because obviously it is such a low funding goal.
Michael mentions that they could do a make 100 campaigns that would cost 1,260. I think, I don't know if Michael's meaning that they would lose £1,260, or if what Michael is saying is that they could actually end up on zero balance for 1,260 for okay, so that's the goal, and presumably Michael loses is like zero balance after that. Is that what you're saying? What kind of game are you talking? Give us the details, Michael. Write them in chat.
So if the goal is 1.2k, what makes how much do you need in terms of cash reward back on top of that in order to make it worth your time to spend 3 months running a Kickstarter campaign? Because then there should be your Kickstarter funding goal. Because obviously this takes time.
In a sense, I like what Dan Jolin said yesterday, which was that the goal was what would get us to zero balance, what would make us not lose money to make it. Because that time that you're spending doing the Kickstarter, you've already spent it anyway. So I feel like at the end of the Kickstarter, let's say you've got two scenarios. One is you get some amount of money and then you put the game out there. One is you don't get some amount of money and then you don't put the thing out there. Now, if you're going to put, I mean, obviously you might get some money and not put the thing out there, or you might not get the money and put the thing out there, but those are a bit rarer. So let's ignore those two things for the moment. But if I'm getting, for the sake of simplicity, if I'm getting £3,000 and it costs me exactly £3,000 to make and fulfill these games, it's like, well, if I'm planning this as a series of things, as a company, as a person who's planning to make not just one single game, but multiple games, as long as that one game is something that I'm proud of, you know, if I got like some number of those games out there, that's going to just add credibility to me as a designer. And if I've spent, you know, let's say I've spent even 3 months of full-time work, you know, doing this thing, nothing else, then at the end, if the options are literally just to get nothing, do nothing, or to get essentially end up with nothing and just have some things out in the world, then having those things out in the world is surely a better state of affairs. So that's why, in my mind, why would you put the time spent or even the sunk costs into your Kickstarter? That's kind of my thoughts on it.
And for some that is, you know, financially they need to do that, and obviously everyone's financial situation is different, and some are able to run a zero balance Kickstarter, but not everyone is able to do that. So, you know, based on where in the field are you, and is running a zero balance and being upfront about running a zero balance Kickstarter what you need to do and what you want to do, then absolutely I would applaud that.
Michael is suggesting that they could make 2 decks of cards for £1,260. And if you can, then I really want to speak to you, because I really want to make a game that's just 1 deck of cards, and I can't work out how to make it for that amount of money. So maybe we could have a private chat at some point, Michael, if you're up for this, and do, because I've got a few game ideas. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, and yeah, Michael suggested that a game might not be big enough to warrant a 7 to 10k campaign, and it would be more of a proof of concept and then could be pitched. And like that wasn't the way that I intended in a bind to be, but like that's the way that it can be. And for sure you can have surprises along the ways. And I think that it's about the timing is also about taking advantage of things when they pop up and kind of rolling with the punches and being like, oh yes, actually, you know what? I was a bit too hasty with this bot. I didn't realize how much it would distract me, but it was fun. And like, let's get back to playing with the bot tomorrow. And tomorrow on Friendly Friday forum, we'll just, speaking of which, I did get rid of, I did increase the timing, but yeah, it was, yeah. So that's going to be tomorrow's thing. But getting back to the main topic, like, is there a certain, and the other things that I heard you talking about is that the earlier you do it, the better. Now, this is something that everyone says, but is there an extent to that? I want to mention, oh, sorry, it's under a lamp. I know I've told other people about, okay, so I see you recognize this game.
Yeah.
Okay, so this game, I took it to Essen about 3 times, and then I started getting negative reviews from someone who said, I'm really angry about this, it isn't even a game. And I messaged them to say, hey, I'm slightly confused. Are you saying that the style of the game isn't a thing, or are you angry that you couldn't buy it, that I wasn't making it? And then they never replied to me. I have had multiple people that I only know through playtesting say, hey, Bez, we really want this thing. But, you know, let's say I do, you know, make it nice and then spend, let's say, 20 years. And then when I'm, you know, in my twilight years, then I finally release it. Do you think that it would do better in 20 years' time, or do you think it would do better in 3 years' time?
Okay.
And this is a genuine question. I'm not going to make I'm not going to make my decision purely based on what you say, but this is going to be you've got a big responsibility. I hope you.
Okay, so you've been teasing about the existence of this game for like 3 years, right?
Yeah.
I have seen the game box appear on your streams at least a handful of times just in the summer month alone. So for me, you know, I would like to see it happen within the next 3 to 5 years. I think that would be a good idea. But if you are planning on maintaining your stand as a game designer in the market for the next 20 years, absolutely do it in your twilight years. It can be done.
I mean, why are
like
you
this
suggesting that something's
thing.
going to happen to me, that I'm not going to be a game designer?
No, but everyone's journey is different. You know, you're moving and things are going to change. And the question is, are you planning, is the goal of the brand best to remain a game designer and have a few releases every year or every odd couple of years in the future? Then, you know, you can pull it off and do it in 20 years. But then obviously, we are going to be, you know, in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. We're going to be old by then, you know, depending on who's watching. And we might not be, it might not be accessible to us anymore in terms of what the game is about.
That's true, because maybe at that point, it's like I'd have to change all the arts and concepts. And oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't a judgment. Twilight years, the years in which Bez sits down to play one game of Twilight's Imperium 4. Okay, so maybe that's it. Like in my Twilight years, which might be next year when I meet Colvin in Malaysia, and I'm sure Colvin will force me to play Twilight's Imperium, let's be honest.
Oh,
And then it's...
Godspeed.
But yeah, is there a kind... If you keep pushing it and, you know, Xate gets fed up, Xate gets annoyed and bored of it, and it's like, okay, this is passé. What's the point? And other people might come up with better games about talking quickly. Maybe the concept itself will be just at that point old hat, because games do change. And you know, I would suggest that if you brought out Alfarse, you know, this year, then it probably wouldn't have done particularly well.
I think if they change it a little bit, like I had some, like when I was playing it, I was looking at it and I was like, okay, if you do this and this and this, it would be a fantastic game for like 4+. And it's like minor tweaks to it, and it's brilliant. Like now, kids 4+, it would be perfect. And I was like, okay, so my kid and me, we taught game design. Yim and I, we made a game earlier during the quarantining. And so I was asking, like, what if we do it like this? And he was like, "Ooh, let's do that." And we drew up a new board and had like suggestion of how it could be played. And he was super interested. And that's one of the versions that we play. So he'll be like, "Oh, I want to play the truck game, but mommy style." So absolutely, like I think it could be definitely be marketed today. It just needs a couple of tunes in order for it to work for the current market.
That's a
Just
fair
like
point.
this
But
fast
then
talking game also can.
I would like 22-1B Baker Street. It's a weird one because some people like it, but I'm going to suggest that I don't know. To be fair, my disappointment with 22-1B Baker Street, and you'll hear about this whenever Chris and I chat about it, is that it wasn't what I was hoping for. But if you go into it knowing that, hey, you're not really solving stuff, it's basically a bunch of weird riddles, and then the riddles kind of put together words that give you the clue. It's okay, it's a fun game, but it's not like you're actually working out, deducing who is the murderer or anything like that. There's no, there's this information, and then you need to put together these bits of information. But yeah,
The
maybe you're right.
gratification of
Maybe
reveal is
given good development, as long as a developer you can stay current, as long as a publisher you can stay current, there's no reason that a game couldn't be do well in decades.
But it does require the amount of work that goes into staying current. So, you know, is that one of your things that you want to continue to do? Then absolutely, you know, release it in 20 years' time. But otherwise, I personally would think that this game has seen so much screen time that 3 to 5 years would be what I would consider to be the maximum, unless you're planning on changing some of the ways that it is played in order for it to be current offset time after 5 years.
Yeah, at that point, you might want to say, okay, you know what, we're going to start, you know what, like you could have like, okay, here's some cards from like all the years, make it sort of almost like the cards reflect snapshots of Bez's life. That could be a cool thing.
Yeah. It could. I mean, yeah.
Like the topics, because the topics can be anything. And, you know, I think there's literally 3 copies of the game in the world. And it's like, you know, some of them are people that I know. And, you know, it shouldn't be in jokes. But, you know, when it's Fish and Chips, the Untold Love Story, and it could be like, okay, when it's 350 illustrations, and I think, you know, if I actually want to do these nicely, if I do like a couple every week, that's, you know, still 2.5 years to get that done. And that is the issue. And I know that people have said, look, you don't really need these illustrations, but it's important to me. I want it to be the game that I want to make with like the 2,000 words on the box and a ridiculous thing, and I want to be confident that I've got an audience that's going to be willing to pay 30 quid for a whole bunch of cards in a small box, because it is it seems really expensive for what it is, which is a relatively small box.
So obviously, what I would then advise is that you spend those 2.5 years or 3 years, because obviously people need breaks too, with audience and then with a supportive community. You could ask them once a week about feedback on the art that you are planning to do. Like, I'm thinking this for this card. What do you guys think? And then have them continuously engage with the content you're planning to release, so that once it's actually released, everyone feels like they have a part of them inside the game, which makes them really loyal to purchase.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to ponder and kind of, getting people. I mean, once I start working on illustrations, which might honestly be once I've made my big life change, and then I'll be like, okay, you know what? Because right now here, there's all sorts of things. Anyway, this isn't meant to be about me. This isn't meant to be about the stream element spot. This isn't meant to be about saying bye to Michael or hello to J Fool's Guard, even though I do appreciate you, and but it is meant to be about marketing. And so for the next 5-10 minutes, again, if you've got any comments, questions, do ask them. I apologize that I'm slightly distracted by my past self today. And Alex asks, if you spend an amount on marketing, should you expect a certain amount back?
Usually in marketing, you are wanting to, for your marketing budget, that the backers for a Kickstarter campaign are paying for themselves. Now, this is that's a very set thing. They should at least pay for themselves. When people are running BGG ads, for example, this is one of the things that very often is talked about, is that it didn't pay for itself, or they just about managed to pay for itself. So if you're spending €5 per backer or £5 per backer in order for them to do, and that is how much it's going to cost you getting back, then, you know, it's like the minimum level is that each backer should pay itself.
And how would you go about tracking this?
So we use a lot of Google Analytics with the UTC links, which is trackable links, or even you can use short links that will show you how many people are visiting. And also by looking at your email signage, you can compare these data to see, you know, the whole lifetime of one buyer. Now, obviously, it is quite difficult to track things within the Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter algorithms or the analytics that you get for it. Having a Kickstarter is really poor and outdated. It could definitely need an update, but working with what you got, you can track them until they get into your Kickstarter page. So obviously, this is why we always recommend people to get them into the email, and from the email into the Kickstarter, and having that funnel in so that you know where your efforts was worth it. If you're discovering early during your 90-day period that your Instagram account is funneling a lot of people into signing up to the email, know that that effort was worth it, and you can increase that and try to scale your efforts on the platform that is worth it.
Alan asks, wouldn't each backer pays for themselves mean that no profits is made for the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah. In a zero profit Kickstarter campaign, it is that each backer pays for themselves. That is the thing.
I mean, this is about, but with the marketing, as long as each backer is paying for themselves, I guess it's about how much incremental work are you generating for each backer. I mean, if you're doing it the way I do, where I spend, you know, maybe 5 minutes for each backer, packing it up and drawing little things on it, you know, if I suddenly went to 10,000 backers, for me, that would actually be a problem. But if I once I'm at the scale where, okay, I'm doing things where I'm going through a fulfillment center, and okay, I'm getting the printer to push it directly to the fulfillment center, and then the fulfillment center is taking care of it. Well, at that point, I'm not actually doing any additional work. So whether it's 100 backers or 10,000 backers, it's the same amount of work. And if it's a good enough game to get 10,000 backers, hypothetically, off a Kickstarter, then, well, it's probably good enough to sell for those 10,000 people who are playing it, assuming the game is good, to then kickstart, sales of many more games, I would say. And then you're going to get more games into distribution and whatnot.
And obviously, if the distribution is proving to be larger than what you were expecting, but the funding goal is of such a height that you can change some of how it's done, adding in fulfillment center and stuff like that, and absolutely do that change the goals where it must be at that point. But ideally, in terms of your Kickstarter campaign, you want to, for your marketing ads and your campaign, you want to be spending like less than $1 for each backer. A good ad will have like 0.2, 0.4, even 0.6 is still a pretty good ad in terms of a cent value.
And so it sounds like it's really all about these UTC links and Google Analytics to manage to track things.
Yeah, those are really important. They're good tools to work with.
I mean, this is not parts of the thing, but are there any marketers who work on a sort of percentage? Like, okay, we will take the profits from the people that we send directly to you. And are there some marketers who work in situations like this? If there's people who are, oh, this sounds great, and I can see how I could really benefit from this, but I guess, again, this is where expertise, and whether it's illustration or marketing or development, and frankly, I'm just going to say publicly, I was a bit saddened by someone that I offered some potentially free development help for, and then they just said, oh, no, thanks. I've pretty much finished designing it. And it's really, that's kind of the perfect time to get development help. And it's like, I was basically offering it because the subject matter was very interesting. It was relevant to my lived experience, let's say. And, I was basically going to say, okay, you know what, let's do some sorts of vague percentage. If it ends up becoming a big thing and it's licensed, then we'll sort it out then. But I can see that it's a fairly niche thing. We don't need to worry about it. But being aware, and I'm not going to say that anyone is perfect, but one thing that I admire about Cesar of Alley Cat Games is that they are ready to say, you know what, I'm not a good designer, I'm not a good developer, I'm not a good illustrator, I'm not a good this, that, the other. And that's why Cesar hires so many people to do those things for them. And being aware and being able to say, you know what, I could spend months learning how to do this marketing, but instead I'm going to hire someone else to do it. Or I could spend months or years, learning how to improve my illustration, but sometimes I want to get someone else to do it. Like, even I'm going to get someone else to do illustration for me for a couple, sneak preview, like, but it's not much of a preview, is it? Just, it exists. It's a thing. Alan in chat didn't really understand the 0. Sorry, you were going to respond to what I just said.
Okay, let's do that first. So $0.5 for an ad. So you're running an ad. You put in an X amount of money for said ad. On how many people that are ending up signing up for your campaign or purchasing your game during Kickstarter, depending on where in the timeline that this ad is running, you want to pay for each of the people who are clicking the link $0.5 or less. Anything so less than
50 cents, basically.
Less than $1 is going to be your game.
And presumably that matters based on the price of the thing, though. because if it's an £8 game, that's going to be quite a different game. That's going to be quite a different marketing strategy compared to if it's a £40 game or even a £200 game in the case of Gloomhaven or whatever.
So obviously, how much money you add into your marketing budget, it will differ. Whether it is $200 or it is 20,000, it's still the same how much money you want to pay for each of these who are ending up going to get your game. Less than $1 is like a standard, market standard.
I mean, I'm just slightly confused. Now it's been brought up. Why is it a absolute amount? Why is it not a percentage of the cost of the thing that you're selling, or a percentage of? Surely it should be a percentage of your margin.
So what we're thinking here is that this is going, so let me rephrase that. Once you've sat on an ad that you want to run, you've already spent a lot of time, probably also A/B tested different ads that are going to drive people to purchase. And you need these money to return to you for the time spent on making various ads and sound and subtitles and graphic elements and so on and so on. You need this to be returned to you somehow. And if you're paying more than $1 for each person who are clicking the link on your ad, it is not a really good ad. The ad could have been done better. Be it the text could have been different, the fonts could have been different, the color choices maybe weren't really targeted correctly to your audience, but something is usually like there's a little alarm bell going like this is not the optimal ad for whatever you're trying to sell.
So you're talking about merely clicking on it rather than backing the game.
So based on how you are, like where in the campaign you are doing it, be it an email sign up or a purchase on or a backer on Kickstarter, depends on where you are in the journey. But with proper tracking, those people who are clicking it should transfer into backers or email signups. If you're paying more than $1, you're probably losing on running the ad.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, I think Alan is also in a similar kind of state of confusion to myself, and maybe we might need some sorts of thing written down. Or so Alan says, I spend 1,000 on my ad campaign and I get 2,000 signed up for a $10 pledge. We're talking in dollars for some reason, but I need to spend a lot more to get 2,000 people to sign up to a $100 pledge, as less are likely to buy it at this price. Oh wait, so Alan is suggesting why $1 makes sense for the email marketing. I think Alan, yeah, because if there's $100, then even if you get, so if you've spent, so maybe the number of people signing up still makes sense for that amount, regardless of the price of the game. I think that's what Alan's saying.
So yeah, that is when you would divert back to, in the end, each backer should at least pay for themselves. But for the specific ad that you're adding money into and running, it should cost you less than $1 for each of the people who are ending up going there. But in the end, for all the efforts that you're doing during your campaign, it should end up being at least that they are, so that, a zero balance.
Okay.
Does that make it more clear?
Yep, it does make sense. And as Alex says, it does depend on how targeted these ads are. And if I put up, hey, sign up to this thing and you will get a whole bunch of free stuff, then I could probably get a whole bunch of people to sign up to my mailing list very easily. But then are they going to be interested in my thing in future? Like, unless the thing that I was giving away was either one of my previous games or something that's exactly the same kind of genre but different to my games then. And also there are some Twitter accounts that literally just retweet and like every single thing that's out there. It's like, okay, what's a hashtag contest? And I asked Chris specifically not to use hashtag contest on the thing that was there yesterday for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a really good one. For contest, you want to do a hashtag specific to that contest. So if it involves getting people to retweet, you could then go back and you can look at the actual numbers of how many did retweet it and be able to track it better. So then in terms of contests or giveaways, make it specific for that singular event. Because otherwise it's going to be flooded and you're going to get a lot of people that are not going to return on your investment.
Alex says they work in retail advertising. Is this for the music shop? And Alex aims for a 20 to 30 times return on the marketing budget. That sounds incredible. And the thing is, this is one of those things where, yeah, it comes back to the importance of marketing. Like I saw a few job adverts recently for a company that I know does very good marketing, and it's like, okay, we're hiring for some more marketing interns. And back in the day, like I always said, you know, I'd love to come over and help out, but then, you know, and they were like, oh, we only do that for marketing people. And it's interesting how they have no in-house developers. To my, like, it's okay. One of the people who started up the company, they did come up. Anyway, I don't want to kind of start besmirching people and getting specific, but it kind of shows like the amount that a company is able to purchase, the amount of returns, the information that the company has. It is very much a positive feedback loop in the real world.
And to get back to their question, what does this company get in return? What is the standard there? It is quite often that marketers such as myself will join in on projects for Kickstarters, asking for an hourly wage plus 1% of your total funding goal, for example, or 1% of what you end up raising. There are some who do it for 5 and up to 20%, I think is the highest what I've seen, but they will ask for as a cut for helping you running the marketing campaign.
With the total funding goal, would it always be the total, or would there be some way of saying, okay, these are the links that we have actually contributed towards, and it's a percentage of this? Is there any marketer that would just say, okay, I will take 95% of the profit of all the people that I send your way, or even like 100% of the profits of all those people that I will send your way, because if I send 1,000 people your way, then there's going to be probably a bunch more people who sign up just because of, you know, it goes higher up the algorithms and that kind of general growth. Yeah.
So in that case, you know, they're running links where it's directly trackable how many are actually signing up through them as a funnel. So they're able to say, okay, we sent you X amount of backers, or they might even have a backer goal that they are trying to meet, and then they will ask for a money tied to that. In many cases, it is that your success is our success kind of deal. So 20% of what ends up being the total of the entire campaign, but someone will also ask for a cut for how many they are sending. There's a little bit of difference depending on what company you're using and what they are used to doing previously. But yeah, so there's.
I mean, do you hypothetically, do you think that okay, we'll work on this together, and whatever you send out of these links, you get all of the money for this minus the production, postage costs and fulfillment? If you're using a fulfillment center, that would actually make it easier, because then it's okay, it's not even time spent by me, but dealing with that, okay, I've got this upfront cost, but there's no incremental cost based on doing another 1,000 units. So if you put in 1,000 more people in, then you get 100% of those profits. Is there actually anyone who's done something like that?
I
Where
don't
it's
think
been
not taking 100% of the receipts, but maybe like 20 to 50%. I've seen some people like
but
talk
doing
about they
that
are doing.
in as the sole method of payment
Yes.
and foregoing any sorts of
When the percentage is that high, it's usually the sole methods of payment, and then they have it if you for some reason don't fund, like if you completely fudge it up, they have like we don't charge you, or I am then requiring a minimum of X amount to cover my hourly wages. Or some will then ask for hourly wages with a bonus of 1% of the total funding. So you can cut in from each end here.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I guess ultimately it's all about what is fair and equitable and also respectful to everyone involved. And we have, of course, deviated a lot from the original topic. As I try to wrap up, we did trying to work out when. I mean, if you have something like, okay, when should I put out this ad, and it's a particular ad, what kind of let's try and rush through all the questions that and be hyper focused. What goes into this decision of when does this ad go out?
Okay. When in the timeline are we? What is the goal of the ad? And what is a success of said ad? Is the ad targeted towards getting email signups? Is the ad going to get audience? Is it to get them to back a Kickstarter? Obviously, this is going to define what type of ad are you running, and also what audience, like what have they reached, and how much money do you want to add into it. So there's a lot of planning that is involved in running an ad. You can't just pick a picture from your Instagram feed, for example. I've seen some people do this, and then just boost the post as if it was an ad. They tend to not work. They will probably get you more followers, but they are not converting into backers.
And so you need to think about when on the timeline you are and what the focus is, like knowing what you want to do. And talking about what we should be doing when we're starting up, you mentioned like having those goals, setting up those big picture objectives, and thinking again, having that mind space of giving yourself space to sit back and say, okay, what am I doing? And it's about starting off fuzzy and then getting a bit more focused as you kind of get more established.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have anything more to add about what, assuming the budget is consistent, because obviously budget and available time plays a lot into this, what kind of things should change based on how many games you've got out, or and like if budget is consistent, does that mean you're doing something wrong? Like, does that mean that you're not actually more established?
So in terms of how your budget should be, is that you would start with a lower amount each week or each month in the early days of your 90-day period to launch on a Kickstarter or towards any launch. And then as you get closer, you would increase the amount being spent on the marketing. So the closer you get, the more you would be aiming at spending towards marketing progresses. Because the first ones are just for awareness campaigns, and then you're getting into converting and having people, email signups and actually transition into buyers. So it's a different mode in terms and sense of what is your goal of the ad that you're running. So on like the day before launch, on the launch day, that's where you probably would see that you should be spending the most amount of your and even into like the first 3 days of your Kickstarter campaign is where you should like intensify and focus the ad spend. And if you do have more ad spendings that can be used. Do one for the first week and the second week. Also, when you get into the slope into your campaign, like the quiet weeks of 2 and 3, you could lower the amount of ad spend if you have been funded. But if you're not funded and you think you can push through, and do a thing and then have some, but save then the last bit of money into the 4th week, so that you can kind of hone in people and do a new awareness campaign in week 2. And then as you get into week 3, try to convert those into backers, and then have a final push for the 4th week if you're running a 4-week campaign.
And the final question that I didn't have time to ask is, what time of day is it best to post? Do you have a quick answer?
Early in the morning and late at night. Usually you would see the most engagement of people when they are commuting to work, or at least nowadays it's more like when people are waking up, which is somewhere between like 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning, and similar for the evenings. It's when we usually see on social media platforms that they have the highest engagement. You can get further data on this from your specific platform that you are on, because obviously user data is slightly different depending on your niche, and also what your audience is based upon and what regions they are in. So the data that you'll get from, say, Instagram and Facebook will be based on the country of which you have the highest amount of followers from, and not your local time, which can make a lot of people confused. So that is something I feel like, just note that does happen. For some strange reason, that is how they do it. But early morning and late evenings seems to be the consistency, because you can, and that says, meet the people who are late nighters in the UK and early mornings people in the US, and it gets to gain a bit of traction on the social medias and the platforms before the next round gets up. So you can kind of benefit from how people patterns are and how their rhythms go by utilizing the early morning, late at night period.
That makes sense. And if you're doing it sort of a bit later on, because I asked Chris to do all sorts of things at 3:30 UK time, it sounds like we should be doing it maybe a couple of hours later, because that time was chosen to get, I've got some people in the US who I know are interested in the LDEC, but I know it's still mainly in the UK, but it sounds like that time was badly chosen by us. We should be doing it like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Because your 3 is like my
1.
5.
Oh no, 5. Yes, you're 2 hours ahead, not behind.
So that's a little bit early. As in, if you're then getting into my 7, then we'll add 2 hours to that, and you'd probably be hitting prime time.
Okay. Well, that's been a wonderful, wonderful chat. I'm going to rush through everything at this point, and I do apologize for how long it's been. And we talked about Green Meadow Games, we talked about Alfrasa, Alhambra, My Little Scythe, Biddle, we talked about robots and points, and there was a lot of chats. We'll properly get stuck into that tomorrow. I know normally Fridays don't have a topic, but we'll be talking to the robot. Let's not pretend. I've got so much to say. We'll say it tomorrow. We talked about first jobs and the joys of marketing, and how Paul Grogan is brilliant and getting people to see your stuff. Marketing plan starts early. A bad case study. We talked about focus and priorities. We talked about goals, objectives, like basically what do you want to do, about funnels. The earlier the better, but like up to a limit, which, let's be honest, I am one of the very, very few people who would push that limit beyond what it's actually sensible, but be organized. And we talked about playtesting, getting people involved, and it's all about keeping track of all these people. That's what the funnel's all about, kind of keeping track of all the people. And then having, if you have a small goal that's under 10 grand, then you can do things a bit more easily. I really want to speak to Michael about that. We talked about UTC links and Google Analytics, and that time, that's either early in the morning or late at the night, is a good time to post. And if you want to find me, I am sufferbeds.com everywhere. If you want to find Dina, let me kind of actually, I want to firstly thank everyone, and I want to say for 30 seconds, over to you. What are you up to? If you want to share anything, whilst I quickly find the links. So, Dina, what are you up to?
I am going to actually eat the pancakes I made like 2.5
Nice.
hours ago, which are probably cold now, so we'll have to reheat them. I made Norwegian pancakes. I know I've mentioned it earlier that I do have a slight obsession about different pancakes around the world. But I do tend to go back to making Norwegian or Icelandic pancakes because I think they are the best, and they also have tremendously amount of butter in them, which are just delicious. And yeah, I've turned them into vegetarian variations. I'm not harming the planet as much, putting poison in me and all that stuff. But yeah, so that's my next thing that I'm probably going to give the kid a hug because I can hear him
Aww.
almost in like he's having a lot of fun, so he's probably going to be super excited and grateful for me getting a childminder to play trains with him. So that would be
That
fun to see what they've
sounds
been up to.
lovely. Alan is cleaning up. I am going to sort out something in the bank, send stuff to the post, go to somewhere else, and I'm going to see if I can have. I got a couple of messages from someone who has something that they want to work on with me, which is nice. And anyway,
No,
but
yeah.
for my next streams, look at stuffbybez.com/streams. Tomorrow is Friendly Friday Forum. There, we're going to be chatting to the robot. Saturday, we're talking to Rob Harper about being a jack of all trades. Sunday, I will be reviewing stuff, maybe with Chris, maybe without. I don't know. We'll decide on the day. Monday, there's all sorts of stuff coming up. Check out the thing. And oh, I meant to put Priestess everywhere. It is already in the YouTube and in the Facebook descriptions. But if you want to find Dina, then check out all these links and share, spread the word. I guess, yep, I should do a quick or I'm just going to say for now, thank you everyone, and yep,
I hope
it's
this
all.
was helpful. If anyone have more questions, I am available also on the Discord chat with that is hosted by Baz, or you can ask me questions on Twitter.
Mikael. Okay, just because Xate's asked, okay, so if you are on Twitch, stick around to raid, and for now there's only one thing left to do, and that one thing left to do is to say bye, 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 bye.
Bye,
This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye.